Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the secondary weapon, the Atomos Incarnon. So in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframes using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon, built out by itself, and I let the viewer make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. All right. So the Atomos Incarnon was suggested to us by Matthias Rojas. We have the top commenter of the last video, Brothius, and the first commenter of the last video, Caleb Scott. So let's take a look at the Atomos here. It's a very interesting looking weapon. You kind of put your little fist through this thing. So this works very similarly to the Kuva Nucor or Tenet Cycron or Tenet Glaxion. Any of like those kind of beam chaining weapons is how this works. However, it's got that Incarnon mode, and the Incarnon mode on this is completely different. So it goes from the regular weapon just being like a chain beam to the Incarnon mode being like a grenade launcher. So very interesting. All right, let's go into the build here. Let's go over interesting things first about the Atomos. So the Atomos is the non-incarnon is going to chain to 3 enemies from the main target. So from the main target, chains to 3 enemies within 7 meters, and each chain is going to do 75% of the previous chain's damage. The other thing with these chaining attacks, and this is actually true to all of the chaining weapons in the game, so you could use this information for like the Nucor or the Glaxion or whatnot. If they have punch through, they have the ability to hit multiple main targets, and then each main target chains to 3 enemies. So like let's say you have punch through on this weapon or the Nucor, any of the chaining weapons. If that initial main beam punches through the first dude and hits a second dude, that's technically 2 main dudes that are getting hit, and each of those guys can chain to 3 additional enemies. Now, unfortunately, there's not like a great way to get punched through on secondaries unless you have a semi-secondary, because then you could use a semi-secondary cannonade, but most of the chaining weapons are not like that. I think all of them are not like that. Okay. So the Atomos non-incarnon is going to have innate heat, and the incarnon is going to have innate blast on the radial attack. All right, I think that's pretty much it about the interesting things. The Atomos non-incarnon has, I know it looks like it has a good critical multiplier but that's because of all the mods and the evolutions and whatnot. The Atomos non-incarnon, the critical multiplier is pretty crappy. I want to say it's 1.7 starting. But the Incarnon is actually quite good for the critical multiplier. And the range is actually really good for the radial too. So this is without even Prime Fulmination on. Without Prime Fulmination on, we're hitting 8 meter range. Oh my goodness. With Prime Fulmination, it's almost at that 12 meters. So Prime Fulmination is very powerful in this weapon as well. Okay, let's go over the mods finally here. We have Galvanized Diffusion for multi-shot. Galvanized Crosshairs for critical chance. Lethal Turret for fire rate and multi-shot. Sharpened Bullets for critical damage when aiming for 9 seconds. There's a few options for this slot that we'll go over at the very end. Creeping Bullseye for crit chance. Prime Target Cracker for crit damage. Frostbite and Pistol Pestilence is going to make viral. So we have the 60-60 cold and the 60-60 toxic to make viral. And then we're going to be using Lethal Momentum in the Exilis slot for projectile speed. Let me go over to the Exilis mods real quick here, and I want to just kind of look at Ruinous Extension. So our build is a little bit more focused on the Incarnon. Now, our build actually works amazingly well with the non-Incarnon too, so this build is actually really good on both of them. But we're kind of leaning a little bit more into Incarnon damage. if you really like, let's say you didn't have the Incarnon, you would definitely want Ruinous Extension, because Ruinous Extension is going to help that non-Incarnon beam so much more than Lethal Momentum. Lethal Momentum basically won't do anything for that non-Incarnon beam. But Lethal Momentum will help the Incarnon's grenade launcher be... it affects it so that it doesn't drop very quickly. It takes a little bit longer for it to actually drop. So it's kind of pinpoint accurate until you get to like medium-ish ranges, and then it will start dropping off. So this makes it a lot easier to hit those headshots with the grenade launcher. All right, so that's enough with the Exilus. For the Arcane, we're going to be using Secondary Merciless. This is going to give us 360% flat damage and 30% reload speed. With the Incarnon, of course, you don't really need to reload, but reload speed affects how quickly you go in and out of Incarnon, so this helps the Incarnon as well. Okay, let's go back to the Sharpened Bullets slot. There's 3 mods that compete for this slot. The 3 mods that compete for this slot are Sharpened Bullets for more critical damage, Hornet Strike, let me go back in and out real quick. Hornet Strike for more flat damage, and Primed Fulmination to add more range on that radial attack. All of those are good. Hornet Strike and Sharpened Bullets, in my testing, Hornet Strike and Sharpened Bullets were so close to each other, I couldn't really tell a difference. But I know there's going to be people that are like, why are you putting flat damage on top of more flat damage? So that's why I put Sharpened Bullets here. But honestly, Hornet Strike and Sharpened Bullets did such close damage that I couldn't tell the difference. So if you don't have Sharpened Bullets, you can just use Hornet Strike as well. So that's going to be the best damage options, Sharpened Bullets or Hornet Strike. But the best potential damage would be Prime Fulmination, because you're potentially hitting more targets if there are more targets in the area to be hit. If there are not more targets in that area to be hit, then Sharpened Bullets and Hornet Strike went out. So all 3 of those really, really good. There's something else I want to point out with this build, and that's Galvanized Crosshairs. Galvanized Crosshairs is a like a skill-based mod on some weapons. On this weapon, it's skill-based. On some weapons, it's very easy to get headshots. On this weapon, it's a little bit more skill-based, and so some people are not going to like that I have Galvanized Crosshairs on here, but this is going to give you the most damage. If you really want the most damage, you need to be using Galvanized Crosshairs. But if you don't want to use Galvanized Crosshairs, then you would replace this with any of those 3 options, right? You would replace it with Sharpened Bullets, Hornet Strike, or Primed Fulmination. Now, your Riven slot for this weapon is going to be either Sharpened Bullets or Lethal Torrent. So let me just scroll over here real quick. And I think most people will know this, but I'll just kind of explain it for the people that don't know this. All right, so multi-shot. Incarnon form, multi-shot, it says 2.7. But let me find a blank config here. Okay, so the actual multi-shot on this weapon is 1. Okay, 1 is an average. That's like the base average for most weapons in the game. So when a weapon has an average or a base multi-shot of 1, you need 100% multi-shot to get an extra bullet. So let me scroll over here again. So Lethal Torrent, because it's only 60% multi-shot, doesn't actually give you a full bullet. It gives you a 60% chance to produce a second bullet. Now, of course, you're going to be stacking multi-shot with other things too, right? Like I have Galvanized Diffusion here that has like some conditional stacks and things like that. But this is why Lethal Torrent is a potential for a Riven slot, because it's not technically a whole bullet it's actually giving you. It's a 60% chance to get a second bullet. I think if my Riven had like a really good multi-shot value or fire rate, you don't need a big fire rate value on this weapon, but like let's say you had a Riven with fire rate or a big multi-shot value, I would be happy putting it over Lethal Torrent. If my Riven had maybe like crit chance, crit damage, or something like that, I would be happy putting it over Sharpened Bullets. So it's going to depend on what you get for a Riven. And if you don't get any Rivens, that's okay. You build it just like this. All right, so that's how you build out the Atomos Incarnon. We're going to go over the evolutions real quick now, since this is an Incarnon. First evolution, of course, is nothing. It's just that you've unlocked it and put it on. Congratulations. Second evolution is where you finally get the choice here. Okay, so first we have Hoplite Virtue. Increases your base damage by plus 24, and on Shield Break, you increase your base damage by plus 30 for 8 seconds. That's very, very powerful. So base damage is extremely powerful because base damage is what everything scales off of. It's what your mods scale off of, just everything. Everything scales off of base damage. So this is very, very powerful Hoplite Virtue. But you need to have a Warframe that has a shield, and it has to be a Warframe that has a shield that breaks often, right? So like maybe not Hildren, because your shield's not really going to break too much, even though she's a shield frame. So this, you have to pick a Warframe that this is actually going to trigger pretty often with. Paladin Virtue is the next one here. Increases base damage by plus 24, same as the other one, but let's look at the second part of it. With an energy max over 700, increases your base critical damage multiplier by plus 1 times. Again, this is base critical damage, so all of your mods scale off of this. So this is, again, wildly powerful. So these are both wildly powerful Incarnon evolutions, but they have conditionals that you have to fulfill to get the second part. You're always going to get the first part, which is just the plus 24 base, which is nice. But the first conditional here with Hoplite Virtue was you need to have a Warframe that their shield breaks somewhat often. And the Paladin Virtue, you need to have a frame that has over 700 energy, which is not a lot. I mean, there are a few frames in the game that have over 700 energy. But there's not a lot of setups that are going to have over 700. So both of these are incredibly powerful, and basically whatever you can fulfill, you should choose. If you have over 700 energy, but you're not like breaking your shields every 8 seconds, then pick the one with 700 energy. If you're playing a frame that consistently has your shield broken, because maybe you're playing a shield gate build or something like that, where you're just, you know, having your shield break, you do a rolling guard thing, and then your shields come back up, and then your shields break again. You know, Hoplite Virtue would be amazing at that point. So both really good. Pick whatever you can fulfill. I'm just going to be doing this on a big dumb of Naros, and so I'm just going to pick Hoplite Virtue, and I'm just going to bank on that plus 24 base, and I'm not worried about the second part of this. All right, enough about the second evolution there. Let's go to the third one here. So third evolution, this is a little bit of an easier one. We're going to go with Moonrise Velocity. It's a little bit boring. This gives us plus 7 range on our non-Incarnon, and only the main beam, not the chaining beams, just the main beam. So this will make it easier for you to hit those headshots at like medium-ish ranges and fill your Incarnon up. The reason we picked this is because the other choices are even worse. So that's why we picked the plus range one. Let's look at these ones here. Mercenary Chamber. Increases base ammo capacity to 560. We don't really need that, especially since the Incarnon ammo is basically free. And then Resonant Restore. On reload from empty, increases your base magazine capacity by plus 5, stacks up to 7 times. Again, this is not affecting the Incarnon mode, so this is kind of meh. Again, technically Moonrise Velocity is also not affecting the Incarnon mode, but it makes it easier to fill up that Incarnon at medium ranges. All right, let's go to the fourth evolution here. We're going to be picking Commodore's Fortune. Commodore's Fortune increases our base critical chance by plus 19%. Remember, anytime you see base, it means it's very powerful. It means that everything scales off of it. So that's a very powerful buff there, plus 19% crit chance. But if we look here at Survivor's Edge, this is also an option. I think it's a little bit weaker. I think the Commodore's Fortune kind of ekes it out better, but Survivor's Edge is okay. So this increases your base crit by 10%, but also your base status by 10%. So we're going on the Atomos build for a blast and viral build, and those are both very impactful statuses. And so increasing base status is also not a bad option, and you still get a little bit of crit chance. I'm personally still going to lean towards that Commodore's Fortune, but Survivor's Edge is really close there. And then Elemental Balance, this is just all status chance. I don't think this one's a good option. I would either go with the all crit or the half and half. But again, leaning towards the all crit, I'm going to choose here. All right, and that's the evolutions for the Atomos there. Now, because I don't mix this in gameplay with any kind of externals, I'm going to be doing this on a big dumb Anaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance, no mods or arcanes on the Anaros that increase weapon performance, and with a pet with no sentinel weapon and no mods on the pet that increase weapon performance. All right, let's get into the Steel Path Mott. We'll do 10 minutes there. We'll see how this Atomos performs.
These foes deserve your respect. Honor them with quick deaths, and
So once in a while, you'll see me press my 3. That's just going to give me armor and status immunity. But that's the only thing I'm going to be using once in a while, and you know, that's the only ability I'll be using. So, okay. Let's start here.
They're trying to choke you out.
Got to fill this guy up first.
I'm sending auxiliary life support.
It's not the quickest Incarnon to fill up, unfortunately. But the non-Incarnon mode is quite strong. Because everything we have on the build affects the non-Incarnon. If you went with Prime Fulmination, that would be a mod that wouldn't affect the non-Incarnon. One of my irks with this weapon is that you hold the weapon where your aiming reticle is, so it's really annoying. It's like, it's not hard to get a headshot once in a while just to keep your things proc, but it's a little bit annoying. I wish they would like kind of like lower your hand or like make it like in a little bit like more or something. I don't know. Just kind of annoying. So as you can see, like the non-Incarnon is still freaking slaying, but the Incarnon is just like a devastating grenade cannon. Now, not every shot has to be a headshot. You just have to get a headshot once in a while to keep your stacks at a somewhat decent level and keep the main galvanized scope buff up, which just requires a headshot, not a headshot kill. There's guys like getting stuck in that one room. I think even on Mott, there's like certain rooms that dudes get stuck in. It's really annoying. They need to go back and like review some of the Orokin tile sets. And some of the coding for their enemies as well. Like the coding for the Orokin Drac Masters is horrible. But even in Mott, it's the little traps, those little like circular traps in the walls. They'll keep enemies in those rooms for a while because they'll actually get hit by them. You could technically be in a lot of red crits with this weapon, but you have to be at full galvanized scope stacks. And even for me, it's going to be difficult for me to stay at full galvanized scope stacks. So you're not always going to be in red crits. Like you're probably going to be hovering around like 2 or 3 galvanized scope stacks, which is it's kind of enough. We have Angst here. Let's get some headshots and go to Incarnon. He's actually half dead just from the non-Incarnon. Yeah, and the Incarnon just killed him. Yeah, you'll be hovering at about like 2 or 3 galvanized scope stacks, but you'll have the main galvanized scope buff, which is another 120% crit chance. So you may be in a lot of oranges most of the time, and then if you get lucky with a lot of headshots, sometimes you'll be in those reds. It would be a lot better if, like I said, they moved the where the weapon sits, like on top of your reticle, which is super annoying. Blast and Viral is an absolute devastating combo. It's just that most of the time you can't make Blast and Viral because they both require cold. So the only like easy way to get that, like without using Nourish, is getting a weapon that has innate Blast or innate Viral. So like this weapon luckily has innate Blast, so we can go with the alpha combo of Blast Viral. Oh, my cat is coming over. He's bringing a little ball. He wants to play fetch. My cat plays fetch. What's up, Dobby? I'll play with you after the video, bud. He's the one I'm trying to teach how to play level cap. He's going to do the level cap Revenant video eventually. He has to get better, though. He's pretty much a noob right now. Right, Dobby? You a noob? Yeah, he has like a little ball. He'll bring it up. He'll be like, come on, come play fetch with me. Just have to throw the ball for like 30 minutes for him. Like I said, he plays fetch. He'll actually go get the ball. He'll bring it back to me.
Come to scavenge and desecrate this sacred realm. My brothers, did I not tell of this day? Did I not prophesize this moment?
I wonder how this does against Vor. Vor's so weird. I have to actually look up Vor and see, like, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to shoot him in the stomach, because I don't think anything else does damage, I think. I don't know. I really need to, like, look into him one day. Because some things, like, seem like they completely wreck him, and some things just are garbage. Like Melee, for instance. I can't kill him with Melee to save my life. It's horrible. Like, maybe you can. I just don't fully understand how that works. Ribbon stats for this weapon are going to be crit chance, crit damage, and probably multi-shot. Yeah, multi-shot's so good. Even on an average multi-shot weapon, multi-shot's still good. Yeah, your basic crit riven, crit damage multi, or crit chance, crit damage multi-shot. Probably valuing crit damage the most because this has a very high crit damage multiplier for the Incarnon, not for the non-Incarnon. Although with all the buffs you're getting, the non-Incarnon still becomes good on crit damage. It doesn't start there. It starts at like 1.7. Also, punch through won't work on the Incarnon. So even though I said punch through is very good on like these beam weapons, if you can get it like with a Riven, with this specific weapon, if you're going to lean towards using the Incarnon like I am, you probably don't want punch through on your Riven because it'll kind of be a wasted stat with the Incarnon mode, unfortunately. It'd be really good for the non-Incarnon, just the Incarnon mode would kind of be a wasted stat. Most of the time, things that blow up, punch through doesn't work. Most of the time. There's some exceptions to it. Almost at 10 minutes here. All right, 10 minutes. Got 1,114 kills. It's actually quite a lot. That's actually pretty damn good compared to some of the weapons we've done recently. The ranged weapons. So 1,114. I like it. I like it. It's a little bit more of an... I like the Atomos. It's very powerful, but it's a little bit awkward because like both firing modes are wildly different than each other. Like one's a beam and one's a grenade launcher. So like sometimes you'll go to shoot the grenade launcher and you won't realize that you're out of Incarnon and then you're like, oh, why isn't it doing anything? And it's because you just single tap the beam. I probably did that a few times in the video, you noticed.
Conquer the foe, so you conquer yourself.
You are running out of time. Consider extraction.
All right, so that was the Atomos Incarnon and how you build it out there, guys. If you like it, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And we're almost at 2,000 subscribers. We're at 1,996 from when I looked before I started this. So we're 4 dudes away. So if you're one of those dudes that have been on the fence about subscribing, just know once we hit 2,000 subs, the channel is going to change. That's right. We're going to be adding a cam, but specifically a crotch cam. All right. We have to compete with all those female streamers. They have, you know, the big titty cams. Well, we're going to have that crotch cam, right? It's going to be from down below shooting up at my face. So you get a look at the crotch and you get a look at the face. Okay. We're going to be adding in controversies and scandals, leaked sex tapes, aggressively pushing politics in every video, war crimes, becoming a nuisance streamer, or possibly becoming an NPC streamer as well. So that's what you have that's what you have to look forward to, guys. If you want to see that, make sure you sub. And you guys have a great day.